In this video, I'm going to share 3 steps to creating highly effective and profitable YouTube ad campaigns. Now, before we get into this, make sure to smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you get my videos first. So the first key is that you have to understand that video ads are king with YouTube. You really need to have a great video ad. So there are a few components of this. The first component is having a really great script. The copywriting behind the ad has to be done extremely well. And this is something I see people miss a lot. Now, the first part of this is you really need to understand your customers and what their pain points are, and then be able to create a script around that that shows your product being the solution to whatever they're trying to solve. So a typical structure that we follow with our YouTube ads is we will first have a strong hook. The hook is a strong attention-grabbing statement that gets people to watch your ads. Really, the goal of the hook is to just grab their attention so they're committed to watching at least a minute or more of this video ad that you have. So an example of a hook could be a controversial statement. So an example of a controversial statement, let's say you're selling a shoe, right? Let's say you're selling sneakers. And these are the most comfortable sneakers out there. You can wear them for hikes, you can wear them in the ocean because they're waterproof, and it's some sort of basically magical sneaker, right? So what you would do is you would figure out what kind of the major pain points are. So let's say you know that a lot of the people who buy your sneakers are people who love going onto the beach and jumping into the sand and maybe going on hikes, right? So what you may want to do is open with a statement like, hey, what if I told you there's a sneaker out there that's better than most hiking shoes, looks good, and is far more comfortable and doesn't get hot or cold, right? So that's a statement that's kind of grabbing their attention because it is something that's new. It's not kind of a usual thing because most sneakers are not like that. They're usually not very warm, and most hiking shoes are very uncomfortable, right? So you're hitting on all of those key points. So it is a little bit of a controversial statement because most people think that, hey, this can't really exist. So that's an example of a hook, right? And hooks can be many kinds of different hooks. You could do hooks with your, let's say, your hand motions, right? So you could say something like, hey, you there, and that would grab people's attention, get them to watch the next few seconds of the ad. The hook could be, as I said, a controversial statement. The hook could be a physical scene. So we had a scene where we had a hammer drop on a client's product and the product was completely fine, right? So that could be the hook as well. Essentially, it's anything that grabs their attention the first 5 seconds or so that gets them to watch the rest of the ad. Now, one key point is you should really make sure to have a great hook. That's the most important part of the ad. And you want to be testing different hooks wherever you can. Now, after the hook is where you actually get into the meat of the ad and you introduce your product or your offer. You tell them what it is, what are the problems it solves, and you want to do this in a fast-paced, interesting way. You don't want to sit around and beat around the bush or say stuff that doesn't really matter, right? So what I mean by that is sometimes I'll see ads where people go way off scripts and they're just talking, right? They're talking for 5 minutes. You don't want to do that. Every sentence has to have a purpose. And when you're writing your ad script, you should really think about, hey, how can I cut down the script and make it shorter? So one of the key components of your main ad is having elements of social proof and authority. Social proof is other people liking your product. So an example of this is perhaps clipping in some images of reviews you've gotten, right? So you'll see this with a lot of ads is they'll actually have kind of a scrolling wall of reviews on their ad, or it could even be their Amazon reviews, right? The main key here is they're trying to show you that, hey, other people like this product, and social proof is one of the most important persuasion triggers out there. Another key component is building authority. So authority is more along the lines of, let's say you were featured in a certain magazine or your product was really well reviewed by the Wirecutter or the New York Times. So that's an example of authority, right? So with social proof, we're trying to show them that, hey, everyday common people like this product. While with authority, you're trying to also show them that, hey, the biggest experts in the industry like it, and therefore we are an expert, or our product is kind of an expert product, right? Like it's a product that's vouched for by experts. So that's kind of the authority portion of it. So we want to make sure we have social proof in there, authority in there, and relatively early into the ad, around 30 seconds in or so, we do want to have an early call to action. One of the key parts of the ad is having strong call to actions and having multiple call to actions. So what we'll typically do is we'll have an earlier call to action that's around anywhere from 30 seconds to maybe 45 seconds in. And that's for the people who are already interested, they like your product, and you just want to get them to click, right? Because usually whenever you have a product in the first 30 to 45 seconds, most people will get it, right? They'll get what this product does or what this offer is. But then after that, you may need to do some additional persuasion to get people who are on the fence. So the first call to action is fairly early on, and then after that, you can also go deeper into how this offer works or what you're offering them, what you're teaching them, whatever your product does, right? But you want to always have that earlier call to action. And then later on, as the ad ends, that's where you want to have a second or potentially even third call to actions. I've seen ads with 3 to 4 call to actions. And when you do a call to action, it should be very strong. It should be something like, hey, make sure to click the link above or below to go sign up for this free webinar. Or it should be something like, hey, go click the link above or below to go buy our shoe, our magical sneaker. So that's how you can set up your call to actions. Now that's kind of a brief summary of how to shoot an ad. I have a more detailed video on how to script YouTube ads. You can, I'll have a card up there so you can go watch that video. Now, once you've actually scripted your ads, it's really important to shoot them the right way. So the few key principles you want to keep in mind is number one, audio is king. If people can't hear you, they're not going to pay attention to you. This is the part that's quite easy to screw up because people often like to shoot ads outside in nature, etc., and then they're shooting it with their iPhone, which is completely fine, but you want to make sure you have a separate audio mic for that, right? So what I recommend is if you're shooting outside, yeah, you can shoot with your iPhone, but try to have a lapel mic with a muffler so that cuts out any wind. Other than audio, you also want to make sure that you maintain good video quality. Usually your typical iPhones and so on can work well, but if you have shaky hands, you want to get a gimbal or some sort of stabilizing method or have a friend shoot it, right? Because that's gonna really kill your ad if there's a lot of instability. So that's a big thing, is make sure that the video quality is good. You have good lighting. So always make sure the light is coming at you. So if there's a bright thing behind me and I shoot the ad, then that's just going to mess the ad up because then all the brightness from behind is just gonna make me look really dark. Now, the last tip for shooting ads is actually to bring the energy and the hype. So you want to really be hyped up, drink some coffee, get amped up, and then practice your script before the actual shoot. So make sure to actually spend 30 minutes to an hour practicing your ad, and make sure to actually do 3 takes of each ad when you're shooting. So typically what I find is when I'm shooting ads, I usually need 5 to 10 minutes to warm up, and that's why I'll do multiple takes of each ad, and the 3rd or 4th take will usually be the best take. So the 3rd component of great ads is editing. So you want to make sure you have some cuts in there. So you could have zoom ins, you could have zoom outs, you could have interesting transitions of different parts of the ads, add in some B-roll footage, perhaps use text to emphasize key points. So this will actually make your ad convert better because your ad will be more engaging. There's this rule called the 10-second rule, which I learned from, I think it was Parker Walbeck. And basically the rule is you should never have more than 10 seconds in your video without some sort of effect or edit, and that keeps people's attention. So let's get to the second key of running effective YouTube advertising campaigns. And that is using the right targeting. So with YouTube ads, you can use a wide variety of targeting and basically be able to target your audience in so many different ways. You can target them based both on the content they're watching right now, as well as their general interests, as well as what they're searching in google.com. So there's multiple ways to find those people and then show your ad in front of them. We typically find with YouTube ads that broad audiences work really well. And when I mean broad audiences, I mean bigger audiences that have a larger size. So what's really popular among a lot of YouTube ads gurus is placement targeting, which is basically showing up in front of individual videos. That can work, but you want to make sure you have a mass quantity of videos to show up in front of. If you just try to show up in front of one video ad, chances are your ad's not going to run and it's going to get very few impressions and very few clicks. When we're trying to scale, we use different types of audiences, like in-market audiences, which is basically an audience type where Google targets people based on their interest or intent in buying certain things. So they have in-market audiences for everything from buying automobiles to home and garden to even, I think, dating advice and so on. So you can essentially target people in that category. Now, it is very broad and it's not the most accurate, but we typically find that does well. Other kinds of broad audiences that work well are custom audiences based on the search terms they're searching in google.com. So if they're going to google.com and searching dog food in 2021 or best dog food, you can target them on YouTube, and those people are interested in dog food. Another audience type is a custom audience based on website URLs. So you will just plug in a website URL, it could be your competitor's URL, and Google will find people that it thinks are similar to people who visit that website. And they have so much data from Google Analytics, from Google Ads, that they're really able to provide some great data on that, and you're able to actually get good results with those custom audiences. We also have really good results with keyword targeting, where we're essentially targeting based on the titles of the videos, the metadata, which is the tags or the description, and we're targeting people watching those videos. So if you have a keyword like best dog food, you're going to show up in a bunch of videos about dog food. It is usually a bit more broader than placements because you're not choosing the specific videos. You're just telling Google, hey, I want to show up in videos that are about this, or people who are watching videos about this very recently, right? So that's kind of how keywords work. One quick little tip, we typically just use one audience per campaign. We typically find that works best, as opposed to putting in like 5 different audiences into one campaign. So that's just a quick little tip for you. Now, the third key here is you want to fix what's broken. So one of the keys to making YouTube ads work really well is understand what's broken in your funnel or in your ads and work on that. So an example of this is if you have a really low click-through rate, right? Let's say if your click-through rate is 0.7%. Usually that means your ads aren't that great and you need to really focus on getting the ads better. A lot of people, what they'll do when they see a low click-through rate like that, they'll think that, hey, maybe my targeting sucks, or maybe I need to use a different bidding type. But a majority of the times, if you've tested a bunch of targeting options and your click-through rate is low on all of them, it usually means you need to go and fix your ad. And it's probably not your funnel, it's probably not your targeting, it's probably your ad. Now, the same thing when you have a high click-through rate, which in our opinion is over 2%. So let's say you have a 2.5% click-through rate, but then only 5% of people are opting in to watch your webinar. What that typically means is that there's a disconnect between the ad and the landing page. Maybe the ad is saying one thing and the landing page is saying another thing, or perhaps the landing page just has really bad copy and people aren't opting in because there's no motivation to. So you really want to understand the metrics behind YouTube ads, which includes click-through rate, cost per click, and then also your funnel metrics, so opt-in rates or your webinar conversion rate, and try to figure out what the biggest obstacle is, right? So for example, if your webinar is not converting, that's a major issue. So if you're getting $5 leads, but only 1 in 100 people or 1 in 200 people buys your product, it's going to be hard to make things work, even if you're getting cheap leads, because of the fact that your webinar isn't converting well. Typically for a webinar selling a $997 offer, we want to go for a 2 to 3% conversion rate. So that's the second key, is understand where in your funnel and in your ads things are broken, so you can fix that one thing, go fix it first, and then you can focus on fixing whatever the second biggest glaring issue is. And you'll get much better results doing that versus trying to fix everything at once. Just go fix one thing at a time. So those are the 3 keys to scaling with YouTube ads. Obviously, there are other major parts of this as well, but those are kind of 3 that I just wanted to bring up because I see most people not doing them right. So guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to smash the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and give this video a like for the algorithm. So guys, if you want to learn how to get good at YouTube ads, we have a training program where we've helped our clients generate over $10 million with YouTube ads. And all you have to do is click the link in the description to linxdigitalagency.com/course, and you can check that out. Thanks again for watching.